Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel and my first ever Nuzlocke of Pokemon Crystal. Generation 2 was the first game I bought as a child and it still remains one of my favorites to this day. The 8-bit retro style and the old school Pokemon that were added make this game very nostalgic for several people, including myself. Amongst Nuzlockers and Pokemon fans, Gen 2 is considered to be one of the worst generations to Nuzlocke due to the extremely high level caps and low level wild Pokemon. Regardless of this, it still remains one of my favorites. With the recent announcement of Pokemon Legends ZA and the reveal of the starter trio, it's inspired me to go back to Generation 2 and use some of these old Pokemon. As the leading Chikorita line apologist, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to use the line in its original glory before it gets any regional variants or mega evolutions. No hate to the Cyndaquil and Totodile line, but in my opinion there's only one choice for a Gen 2 starter.
How could you not say cunt? Like, that's cunt. Like,
with that being said, let's get into this Generation 2 Pokemon Crystal Nuzlocke. We start off by having a chat with our mom and reminding her what day it is.
Saturday.
After we remind Mum what Saturdays are for, we make our way over to Professor Elm's lab so we can start off this Nuzlocke and get our first Pokemon. If it wasn't already obvious, my choice as a starter is Chikorita, which we end up naming Basil, and becomes one of the more tame nicknames in this playthrough. For those who are unfamiliar with Nuzlocke rules, all Pokemon must be given a nickname. If a Pokemon dies, it can no longer be used and has to be released. You're only allowed to use the first Pokemon you encounter on a route, no healing items during battle, and no training your Pokemon past the level caps. Now that we have our first encounter and Professor Elm's phone number, we can make our way to Mr. Pokemon's house. We run into this dweeby looking character outside the lab who doesn't really look like he wants to speak to us. Since we don't have any Pokeballs and we can't catch any encounters, we make our way to Mr. Pokemon's house where he gives us a mystery egg, Professor Oak gives us a Pokedex, and then we head back because it looks like there's some trouble down at the lab. As we make our way back to New Bark Town, we're stopped by that familiar looking dweeby character who challenges us to our first battle. The dweeb seems to have got his hands on a Cyndaquil, which Basil is easily able to take down despite the type disadvantage. Fun fact, up until about a year ago I always thought the rival was a girl. Once we get back to the Pokemon lab, we're questioned about the thief, who we identify as being Dweeb. After we give the mystery egg to Professor Elm, he seems to have completely forgotten that one of his Pokemon was stolen, and encourages us to take part on the Gym Leader Challenge. We're only interrupted one more time by one of his assistants who gives us some Pokeballs so we can finally start catching some encounters. Like most early route Pokemon in these games, our first encounter ends up being a pretty useless Sentret, which we nicknamed Veruca. No offense to Veruca, but we need another encounter, so we head up to Route 46 where we get one of my favorite Pokemon and one of the highlights of this Nuzlocke, a Rattata which we name Brianna. On our way to Violet City, on Route 30 we get a Pidgey which we name Falco, then in Dark Cave we get a Zubat which we name Bat Baby.
White horse. Hi, bitch.
As there's not much to do in Violet City, we head to the Bellsprout Tower and take out all the sages, and then prepare for our first gym battle against Falconer. As Basil is extremely weak to Falconer's birds, we end up starting the battle with Veruca, who has a very unfortunate time here. Falconer's Pidgey lands a critical hit, and then Veruca misses 2 tackles in a row before she's able to take out the Pidgey. Next up is Falconer's Ace, which is an illegal Pidgeotto, which is known to be an early Nuzlocke ender for lots of people. In order to take this out, we're going to have to do a bit of strategizing, so we have Falco up first to spam Sand Attack until we reduce the accuracy by a decent amount. Next up is the iconic diva Brianna, who gets off a couple tail whips, lowering Pidgeotto's defense before using a few more quick attacks, which takes out the Pidgeotto and secures us our first gym badge. With our first gym badge in hand, the level cap now increases to 16, which means we can get a couple evolutions, a few new encounters, and we can continue progressing through the game. We're given an egg by one of Professor Elm's assistants, then we head to the ruins of Alph to do some puzzles and catch our newest encounter, an unknown, which we name
Cause some came in the mail today.
I did.
These nuts. Got him!
After adding these nuts to the team, our mysterious egg from Elm's lackey hatched into a Togepi, which we named Florentine, and then we caught a Ghastly, which we named Myrtle.
Who's moaning Myrtle?
I'm moaning Myrtle.
Right after Ghastly, we add this Wooper to the team, which we nicknamed Mud Puppy. Both Myrtle and Mud Puppy are great additions to the team that are going to be useful in this portion of the Nuzlocke, as well as later in the game. With our new additions to the team, we make our way through Route 32, as well as the Union Cave. which always seems like a very long portion of the game to me, which is a perfect time for me to remind you guys, if you aren't already subscribed, to go ahead and do so, like the video, and leave a comment. As a new YouTuber, it'd be greatly appreciated, especially all the time that goes into editing these videos. It would really make a difference. Inside Union Cave, we catch an onyx, which we nicknamed Sneck, and immediately put in the box for the rest of the game. Once outside Union Cave, we catch a Geodude, which we nicknamed Bedrock. Once we enter Azalea Town, we head to Kurt's house so we can tattletale on Team Rocket, and then head down to Slowpoke Well. Unlike Kurt, my team has a pretty easy time through this cave, and they're able to take out Team Rocket without any problems. Since we're in the Slowpoke Well, it's a perfect time to get our new encounter, which, you guessed it, is a Slowpoke that we nicknamed... Anyways, in preparation for Bugsy's gym, we train our Pokemon for about the next 47 years, and during this time, our Chikorita evolves into Bayleaf, which is our first evolution of the Nuzlocke. People always tend to shit on this evolution line, especially in this game, as Grass type doesn't really have much time to shine, but I believe that Bayleaf is a perfect middle evolution, and I'm extremely excited that it's now on the team. We spend the next little while getting the rest of the team up to the level cap, but that doesn't really matter because for Bugsy's gym, we have a secret weapon up our sleeve.
Secret weapon. Let's go!
These nuts.
That's what it is! Your secret weapon's
These nuts.
Kings.
Pokemon is the awesome and fearsome.
These nuts.
No wonder you call
These nuts.
secret weapon. I'm totally psyched seeing how powerful your
These nuts.
is. That
These nuts.
of yours sure is strong, all right.
Of course it is. That's why it's my secret weapon.
Through process of elimination, I was able to determine that D's Nuts had the hidden power Flying, which I thought would be a good way to weaken the Scyther a little bit, but he ended up soloing this whole gym. That's kind of why I love Nuzlocke, because you end up using Pokemon that you never would, like an unknown, and they end up being surprisingly good. With Bugsy's team obliterated, we're able to claim our second badge. Immediately after exiting Bugsy's gym, we're forced into another battle with Dweeb. We thought that Bat Baby would be able to do some work here, but it turns out that she was pretty useless. Between Mud Puppy and Brianna, we're able to take out the rest of his team. At this point in the game already, we have some good coverage against Dweeb's team, so moving forward he doesn't pose much of a threat to us. However, he does always seem to run his mouth after getting obliterated.
Is this bitch for real?
In the Ilex Forest, we catch our HM slave, which we nicknamed Sprout. This next encounter has me really excited, because not only would it be a good addition to the team, but it also happens to be my dog's favorite Pokemon. Unfortunately, this Abra did what most Abras do, and it teleported away. Sorry, Squid. Hoping to redeem the failed Abra, we pick up the odd egg from the daycare, which has a 14% chance of being shiny, but we end up with a Magby that we nicknamed
Tamale. My Mexican friend said that they're super good,
and my Mexican friend was right. Magby ends up being a great addition to the team, and I've actually never used one before. If you've ever done a Nuzlocke before, you know exactly what I'm preparing for now. The third gym leader in Johto is Whitney, who may look innocent, but is the inspiration for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Whitney and her Miltank are responsible for the ends of millions and millions of Nuzlockes. So in preparation, we spend the next 748 years training up our Pokemon to the level cap, getting a couple new encounters, and evolving some of our teammates. We then add Duck Hunt the Psyduck, Lisbon the Ladybug, Salazar the Ekans, and 11 the Drowsy.
I dump your ass.
We've done all the preparation we can, and it's time to take on Whitney. Our team consists of Brianna, Basil, Mud Puppy, 11, Myrtle, and Tamale. Whitney starts off with a Clefairy, which usually wouldn't be an issue, except for the fact that this Psycho has Metronome. The chances of Clefairy using one of the one-hit KO moves is low, but this is a Nuzlocke, so things do happen. Brianna, however, says,
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
Brianna is able to take the Clefairy out with a quick attack before Whitney sends out her beast straight from hell. Whitney's Miltank is fast, bulky, and hits like a truck. It also has Milk Drink to restore its HP once you chip away at it, and Rollout, which gets stronger every time it's used. So we added 11 to the team here so it could put the Milk Tank to sleep, and Basil could chip away at it after throwing up a Reflect. 11's able to hypnotize it a few times, and Basil throws up a couple Reflects before Mud Puppy comes in and just brute forces the Milk Tank. It almost seems unfair to have a Quagsire this early on in the game based off of how strong it is, and it's just such a derpy little dude. Mud Puppy learned Dig earlier on, so it's able to dodge the rollouts every other turn, which is exactly what we do until we're able to destroy this absolute unit. And just like that, we now have our third badge. Actually, we don't, because Whitney's a little bitch and doesn't give us the badge until her friend runs back and tells her that she needs to give it to us. But we beat the third gem. Then we head out to this lady's house to get the squirt bottle so we can get past this Sudowoodo. Fun fact, as a kid, I did not realize this was a Pokemon, and it completely blew my mind. Speedrun of our new encounters: Barkley the Sudowoodo, Squid the Growlithe who looks exactly like my dog, Heifer the Miltank, Hotbox the Coughing, and Amazon the Machop. Bat Baby finally evolves into Golbat, which ends up being a huge addition to the team. Golbat's one of those Pokemon that evolves by friendship, so we take it to this guy's basement to give it a haircut, even though it's bald-headed, and since it's Nuzlocke and Bat Baby hasn't died yet, it already should have pretty high friendship. Speaking of friendship, or lack thereof, we enter the Burned Tower and we get to battle Dweeb again. Like I said previously, Dweeb's team is not very good, so Bat Baby's able to easily take out the Haunter before we get Mud Puppy to take out the Magnemite. We let Barkley shake her hips a little bit at the Zubat, and then Mud Puppy comes in to take out Dweeb's ace, which is a Kolava. Not sure why it's considered an ace, because Mud Puppy absolutely wrecks this thing. She is that girl, she is the moment, she's an icon, and she will always be that diva, period. In typical Dweeb fashion, he decides to talk a bit of shit after we completely destroy him, but lucky for us, we fall into a hole that opens up in the floor, and we're able to make a quick exit. Y'all ready for some lore? We encounter the three legendary dogs, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, before we run into Yucine, who is a bit of a Suicune stan. Kind of embarrassing for him to be so obsessed with a Pokemon that lives in your hometown and you have no idea your whole life, and I accidentally encounter it by making an Irish exit from a conversation I don't want to be a part of. We then start to prepare for our next gym battle, which is against Morty, the Ghost-type trainer. Lucky for us, our girl Bat Baby shows us why she is one of the best rappers in the game, and we evolve her very quickly into Crobat. Thank God for that weird, creepy basement haircut. Shortly after that, we find Myrtle in the prefix bathroom, evolving into a Haunter. Which we immediately evolve into a Gengar. As we prepare to take on Morty, I add our Lediba named Lisbon to the team. Very excited to use Lisbon because I've never used a Ledium before, and my boyfriend previously used one and it fucking died from Eradicate. So that's the first death of our Nuzlocke. Rest in peace to Lisbon. A little bit my fault because I wasn't paying attention, but it is always difficult to see your first Pokemon die in a Nuzlocke. After that fun turn of events, it's time to finally take on Morty, and we've decided on the team of Brianna, Mud Puppy, Bat Baby, Barkley, Myrtle, and Basil. Morty also follows this weird trend in Johto of not using Gen 2 Pokemon, so he is equipped with a Ghastly, 2 Haunter, and his scary-ass Gengar. Compared to Whitney, Morty is a walk in the park. Bat Baby's able to take out Ghastly with 1 bite. It's able to almost take out his first Haunter with a bite, and then it ends up killing itself with Curse, and then he sends out his Gengar. Anticipating that this Gengar would go for the Hypnosis Dream Eater combo, we gave Mud Puppy a Mint Berry so it could wake up from its sleep and then start taking Gengar down with a couple digs. And just like with the first Haunter, we end up using Bat Baby, who takes it down with a couple bites, and just like that, the girlies have won us our 4th gym battle. Now that we have our 4th badge, we get access to Surf, but before we can get the HM, we have to take on the Kimono Girls. Now, if this was one of the Gen 2 remakes, I'd actually be quite scared at this point, but since we're playing Crystal, the Kimono Girls don't really pose any challenge. None of the evolutions that these girls use have any of their type moves, so it's pretty easy to take them all down. Once we speed through these 5 battles, this random dude is so impressed with us that he decides to give us Surf. This is going to give us access to a bunch of new areas and a few new encounters, which I'm quite excited about. Okay, rapid fire of our new encounters. First we have Thaddeus the Poliwag, Mariana the Magikarp, Rangoon the Krabby. The encounter I'm most excited about is Chinchou, which is one of my favorite Pokemon, and we nickname P. Sherman.
P. Sherman 42
We get this Eevee from Bill, which I nickname Runt. I almost decided to use this and evolve it into an Espeon because it is my favorite Pokemon, but during Nuzlocke I like to switch it up and use things that I haven't used before. We also get Fridge the Magnemite, Inkling the Tentacool, Nosedive the Mantine, and then lastly we catch the Shelder, which we nickname Clamantha.
Hi guys! Today I'm gonna show off a few of my...
We make our way across the ocean and get to Signwood City, where we find Suicune hiding out, and that means it's time for some lore. The creator of Suicune Stan Twitter, none other than Usain, challenges us to a battle, and because he has an absolutely boo-boo team, Bat Baby and Mud Puppy are able to take out his Pokemon and secure us another win. It's now time for us to prepare for the 5th gym battle against Chuck and his fighting type Pokemon, and just like 3 out of the 4 previous gym leaders, Chuck also does not use Johto Pokemon in the Johto region. Chuck has a Primeape as well as his ace Poliwrath, and this Poliwrath is kind of scary. It has Hypnosis, Surf, and Dynamic Punch, so it can do a lot of damage. We spend the next 96 hours murdering Tentacool and Tentacruel, single-handedly depleting their population and bringing them to the brink of extinction, just so we can get our team to the level 30 level cap. Not that she'll be much help during this battle, but we get Tamale up to level 30, and she finally evolves into a Magmar. We also add Falco back to the team, who hasn't been seen since defeating Bugsy, and he evolves into a Pidgeotto. Now time to take on Chuck with our newly curated team, consisting of D's Nuts, Bad Baby, Falco, Basil, Myrtle, and Mud Puppy. It's been quite a while since D's Nuts took out Bugsy single-handedly, so we thought it would be a perfect opportunity for him to prove himself again. D's Nuts has the hidden power of flying, so I thought it'd be the perfect option to take out Chuck's fighting types, but unfortunately the Poliwrath kills him, and we have our 2nd loss of the Nuzlocke. All is not lost though, as Bat Baby's able to do about 2/3 of Poliwrath's HP with 1 wing attack. We're put to sleep by Hypnosis, and we withstand 2 Surfs before we have to switch out to Falco. Since the Poliwrath's HP is already so low, we use 1 Gust, which takes out the Poliwrath and secures us our 5th gym badge. Chuck tells us that Pokemon up to level 70 will now obey us, and I would just love to know who in their right mind at this point in the game would have a level 70 Pokemon. Before we cross the ocean back over to Olivine City, we sadly have to say goodbye to D's Nuts and release him. This is the point of the game where things get a little weird, because Jasmine, who is the 6th gym leader, has a level cap of 35, when Bryce, who is the 7th gym leader, has a level cap of 31. To make sure that our main team doesn't get too high level, we switch out some of our encounters, and we start with P. Sherman the Chinchou. Surprisingly, P. Sherman's able to take out most of the trainers in the lighthouse by himself, and once we get to the top, we realize like an absolute idiot that we never got the medicine for the Ampharos. I've been playing this game since I was probably 6, and you think I would remember this by now. With only a slight blow to our ego, we climb down the lighthouse, cross the sea to Signwood, get the medicine, climb back up the lighthouse, and then jam this medicine down the Ampharos' stupid gullet so Jasmine will go back to the gym and we can eventually fight her. On our way over to Mahogany Town, P. Sherman evolves into a lantern, which is going to be extremely useful when we battle Bryce and Jasmine. Before we get into the bulk of the storyline of this game, I decided to do a bug catching contest because I always thought they were fun, and I thought a Sunstone would be a good option to have in case we want to turn Sprout into a Blossom. We end up catching this level 14 Pinsir, which is the Pokemon we end up entering into the contest. Bugcatcher Dawn comes third with his lame-ass Kakuna, and somehow we come second. We catch a level 14 Pinsir, and we come second. And the winner of the contest, apparently, is Cool Trainer Nick with his stupid Butterfree. Fuck that dude, this was rigged. After we graciously admit defeat, we catch a Farfetch, which we nickname Anitra.
You better walk that Doc.
Then Team Rocket tries to charge us $1,000 so we can get to the Lake of Rage.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
Once we arrive at the Lake of Rage, it's time for one of the most iconic parts of this whole game. Our encounter for this area is obviously the shiny red Gyarados, which is just majestic looking. Our buddy P. Sherman paralyzes the Gyarados before taking its HP all the way down to red, just so it's a little easier to catch. P. Sherman's able to tank a Thrash before we use an Ultra Ball to try and catch this red Gyarados. Psych, we kill this thing. We do not want to catch a red Gyarados. This thing is bad. This is not good. We don't like this. This thing is shoved down our throats almost as much as Charizard. We kill this thing and we do not catch it. But my rationale for killing this thing is, in my mind, if I sacrifice a shiny, I will get a different one in its place. So that's what we do. We then meet Lance, who tells us that the Magikarp and the lake are being forced to evolve, and he tells us to meet him at the Mahogany Town store so we can investigate further. Lance fails to give us the heads up that his intention was to straight up murder some dude by using his Dragonite to Hyper Beam this guy. In my opinion, the Team Rocket hideout is one of the most boring parts of the game. It's so long and dragged out, and their team just has such low level Pokemon, it's just not enjoyable in my opinion. But this is a good opportunity to train up some of the guys that we haven't given much attention to. One of these neglected Pokemon is Clamantha. Cloyster is an awesome Pokemon in my opinion, and once it evolves, it'll be great to take on Claire and Lance. But stupid me was not really paying attention again, and Clamantha is our third death of the Nuzlocke.
What the heck?
Clamantha, are you okay?
In order to open the locked door, we have to find 2 passwords from the Team Rocket members. The first ends up being Raticate Tail, and the second being Slow Poke Tail. Behind the locked office door, we find the Team Rocket executive who we have to battle. None of these Team Rocket battles are difficult. It goes very smoothly, nothing to report, nothing exciting. Next is another Rocket executive. However, this lady's kind of serving, and she has a sweet team. She has an Arbok, a Gloom, and a Murkrow, 2 encounters that we haven't seen yet in this game. Lance explains to us that it's the electrodes powering this machine that's sending off the signals making the Magikarp evolve, which means we have to murder these electrodes. And just our luck, this electrode decides to self-destruct. Just kidding, Myrtle's a ghost type, she's perfectly fine. Lance starts flirting with us and calls us his hero, and then he gives us with the 8 gem for Whirlpool. It's now time to take on Bryce, and for this gem we're using the team of Basil, Bat Baby, Myrtle, Tamale, P. Sherman, and Mud Puppy. Bryce is an Ice-type trainer. His team consists of Seal, Dugong, and his ace Piloswine. The first 2 Pokemon are dual-type Water, and his Piloswine is dual Ground, which means P. Sherman is super effective against all 3, and it shows because this is by far the easiest gym battle we have of this entire run. Now that we've beaten the 7th gym, we can head back and do the 6th gym, which is Jasmine, the Steel-type trainer. As we do some training, we head over to Whirl Islands and catch a seal, which we nickname Celia. Then we evolve our beautiful Bayleaf into Meganium, which I am obsessed with. I love this Pokemon so much, I don't care what anyone else says, and I'm so excited to use it in Legends ZA. Preparing to take on Jasmine, we get the rest of our team up to the level 35 level cap. But Jasmine isn't too much of a threat here. She has Steel-type Pokemon. Her team consists of 2 Magnemites and a Steelix, which is a little scary. However, Jasmine doesn't know what she has coming for her, because our Magmar is super effective against all 3 of her teammates, and Mud Puppy is Water and Ground, which is both super effective against the Steelix, so you know that thing hates to see Mud Puppy coming. For the Jasmine battle, we end up using a team of Basil, Myrtle, Mud Puppy, P. Sherman, Tamale, and Bat Baby, who at this point is just our main team. It's now time to take on Jasmine, and she starts with her Magnemite while we start with Tamale, who's able to take out the first Magnemite in just 1 Fire Punch. Jasmine then switches into her ace Pokemon Steelix while we switch into Mud Puppy. Mud Puppy actually learned Earthquake at level 35, which seems a little bit broken, but we're able to use that, bring the Steelix down to about half, forcing her to use a Hyper Potion. With just 2 more Earthquakes, we're able to kill the Steelix, and then she brings out her last Pokemon, which is her second Magnemite. We switch back into Tamale, because why not, and with 1 Fire Punch, we are able to get our 6th/7th gym badge. We barely step foot outside of Jasmine's gym before Professor Elm calls us in a panic. Apparently Team Rocket's taken over the radio tower in Goldenrod City, so that's exactly where we head next. Like the Team Rocket secret base, I find this part of the game to be a little long and drawn out. Team Rocket just does not have good teams and their Pokemon are low level, so it's not really a challenge. But we haven't used Brianna in a while, so this is a perfect opportunity to get her up some levels, and she honestly just solos pretty much every single one of the battles except for the executive at the top of the tower. When we get to the top of the tower, we run into the director, who, plot twist, is actually one of the executives in disguise. He starts with one of his 5 coughings, which hits Brianna with a sludge. This ends up doing way more damage than we expected, so we switch to Mud Puppy, who one-shots everyone else. Another very easy battle. The imposter director tells us that the real director is being held captive in the basement, so we make our way down there. You'll never guess who we run into trying to make our way down to the basement. It's our old buddy Dweeb, who thinks this is the most opportune time to have a battle, as we're trying to save the day. Dweeb starts off with his Golbat, which is quite embarrassing since we've had a Crobat since level 23, but Brianna is able to take it down with just 2 returns. Oh, looks like he's going to use a Magnemite, which means Tamale's going to take it down with just 1 Fire Punch. Seems like every time we battle a Haunter in this game, we almost kill it and then it finishes itself off with Curse, and that's exactly what happens here. Just like the Magnemites, Tamale's able to one-shot the Sneasel with a Fire Punch. He then sends out his Ace Quilava, and P. Sherman's able to take it down with a single Surf. Not sure why this dude's always confused when we beat him, because he's a total plug. We then defeat a bunch more Team Rocket grunts before making it to the final executive. He starts the battle off with a Houndour, which Brianna is able to take out with a single return. Up next is a Coughing, which Brianna once again is able to take down with return. He then sends out his Houndoom, which we haven't seen yet and is one of my favorite Pokemon ever, but unfortunately it's no match for Mud Puppy, and he's able to take it down with just 1 Earthquake. With that battle behind us, we're officially done with Team Rocket, which means we can continue on with the story and get ready to challenge the last gym leader, Claire. On our way to Blackthorn City, we get a few more encounters. First, the Tangela, which we nicknamed Louboutin. Then we get 2 of my favorite Gen 2 Pokemon, Swinub, which we nicknamed Tundra, and Trunks the Donphan. Now, the last couple gym leaders have been a cakewalk, and Claire decides to shake things up a bit. Her team consists of 3 Dragonairs, which are scary on their own, and her ace is a Kingdra. And since Kingdra is a water and dragon type, and fairy type doesn't exist yet, its only weakness is dragon, which we do not have any of those. And this Kingdra has Dragon Breath, which can paralyze our Pokemon, Surf, which hits like a fucking tank, and Hyper Beam, which can probably destroy any guy on our team. So with all that looming in the back of our mind, we spend the next couple years training up our guys all to the level cap, which is 40 for this gym. After lots of deliberation, we decide that the final team to take on Claire consists of Basil, Brianna, Mud Puppy, P. Sherman, Myrtle, and Bat Baby. Mud Puppy's up first to take on Claire's first Dragonair. We start off by using an Earthquake, which almost takes it out, and then we're able to finish it off with just a single Surf. Since Mud Puppy still has the majority of its HP, we leave it out to take on the second Dragonair. Once again, we start with an Earthquake, which is almost able to take out the Dragonair, and then for some reason we go with Dig, not too sure why, but after that one Dig, we're able to take out Claire's second Dragonair. Mud Puppy has put her work in, so it's time to switch out to P. Sherman. P. Sherman should have no problem taking out this Dragonair, and also we need to use it to set up on her Kingdra. Time and time again, I seem to mix up my type matchups, even though I've been playing this game since I was a child. So we go for a Spark, thinking that it would do a decent amount of damage, and we're reminded that it's not very effective against Dragon types. Lucky for us, we get very lucky here on 2 turns. The Dragonair misses its Thunder Wave, and then we hit it for a critical Surf, bringing it almost down to no HP. A final Surf takes out Claire's third Dragonair, which leads into her ace, Kingdra. Now this is the first time in the Nuzlocke where we start to panic a little bit. We start off by going with a Thunder Wave to lower its speed, since Kingdra is such a fast Pokemon to begin with. We get hit with a Surf, which luckily doesn't do too much damage. Second part of our strategy is to confuse the Kingdra, hoping to avoid getting hit by some of its attacks, but even though it's confused and paralyzed, we still get hit by a Hyper Beam. This takes P. Sherman down to 56 HP, which means it's time to switch into Myrtle. Now once again, I go and do that thing where I forget about type matchups, so I use an Ice Punch against Kingdra, which doesn't do too much damage, and it also snaps out of Confusion. I then risk it and go for a Curse, sacrificing half of Myrtle's health, but in return we are able to chip away at the Kingdra's HP a little bit every turn. Then it uses Surf.
No, 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 no. Wait. Wait.
Somehow, Myrtle survives on 1 HP. Thank God she's already a ghost. We then spend the next I don't know how long contemplating who to send in next, weighing all our options, and trying to figure out what our best strategy is in order to defeat this Kingdra without losing anyone. After lots of deliberation, we decide the best option to take out this Kingdra is no other than Brianna, one of our first encounters in this Nuzlocke. On the switch-in, Brianna gets hit by a Surf that brings us down to less than half of our HP. Then the Kingdra takes some curse damage, which brings it down into the red. With Claire's HP so low, she's forced to use a Hyper Potion, fully healing her Kingdra, and we go for a return, which does about half of its HP, before Curse takes it down to about a quarter left. Then Brianna is able to outspeed the Kingdra and take it down with a final return, and just like that, we have completed all 8 gym badges in this Nuzlocke. But we're not able to celebrate just yet, because Claire, similar to Whitney, throws a little tantrum and won't give us our badge. So in order to prove to this little twerp that we're worthy to take on the champion, we have to go into the Dragon's Den and prove to some old dude that we love Pokemon. Much to my embarrassment, this is the portion of the Nuzlocke that I lost the footage for. Yep, somehow, after countless hours of recording and getting through this Nuzlocke, I forget to hit record on one of the most important parts of this game. How are my viewers, if there are any after this, going to know if I am capable of taking on the Elite Four challenge if Claire does not give me permission? Yeah, just kidding, we're cool. And unfortunately, I do not have footage of the final 3 encounters we have with this Nuzlocke, but we catch Burbs, the Duduo, Horse Squirrel, the Ponyta, Ryder, the Rhyhorn, and we never use any of them, and they immediately go in the box, never to be seen again. We also catch a Tatini in the Dragon's Den, which we nicknamed Maleficent. The initial plan was to evolve her into a Dragonite, but it didn't take too long to realize that that doesn't happen until level 55, so shout out to Lance's 3 illegal Dragonites. Taking a break from preparing to take on the Elite Four, I decide to head back to the Ruins of Elf to finish some of these puzzles. I have my eye on some of these hidden items you get from solving the puzzles, specifically the Gold Berry, which can heal 30 HP. Because we need to use Flash, I have Sprout, our HM, slave out. He hasn't been used much in this playthrough, so I thought I'd get him a couple levels, and he gets taken out by a Geodude, so that is our 4th loss of the Nuzlocke. Now comes down to the time that we've been preparing for this entire Nuzlocke. While trying not to lose any of our encounters, we've been carefully curating what would be the most perfect team to take on the Elite Four. But how are we possibly supposed to do this when we have so many options and we've grown so attached to some of these Pokemon? We could go the strategic route and make a team created based solely off of the best Pokemon that would give us the best shot at defeating these final 5 trainers and becoming the champion. On the other hand, we could go with the Pokemon that we've grown the most attached to and that have been with us since the very beginning. It only seems right to finish this the way we started. So, after lots of deliberation, we decide to go with a team that consists of, to no one's surprise, our first member for the Elite Four is Basil. Basil has been with us since literally the very beginning, the whole reason for this Nuzlocke, and there's no way we could do this without him. The second member of our team is Bat Baby. She's one of the OGs, and Flying type is going to come in handy during these battles. The third member of our team is Myrtle. Gengar is just one of the best Pokemon in this game. It's a special attacker, and it's just going to come in handy against lands with all the different punches that it learns. The fourth member of our team, probably the best that we've used this entire run, is Mud Puppy, of course. The fifth member of our team, we decide to go with P. Sherman. P. Sherman has been an absolute tank since we got him, and water and electric combo is just going to be crucial in these battles. And the final member of our Elite Four team is Tamale. I feel like I'm sacrificing one of my children by not putting Brianna on the team, but unfortunately we just don't have room for a normal type on this team. She's been with us since the beginning, and she's been a key member of this Nuzlocke, but we can't deny how good Tamale's done in this run, and a fire type is really going to be useful for some of these battles. So all we can say is thank you, Brianna, thank you for getting us this far, and we'll take it from here. So, with our team in place and our goodbyes said, it's time we take on the Elite Four. We walk into the arena, the door shuts behind us, and we're face to face with Will, the first step in becoming champion. Will specializes in Psychic type Pokemon, and just because he's first does not mean he's easy. Majority of his Pokemon are bulky defensive tanks, and they all hit pretty hard with their special attack. But lucky for us, he starts off with a Xatu, which P. Sherman is easily able to take out with a single spark. Next up is Will's Executor, which Tamale makes quick work of with a single flamethrower. Next up, Will sends out his Slowbro, which is quite the bulky menace, and we send out P. Sherman. This Slowbro is able to take hits, but it also can give them out because it has Psychic, which hits pretty hard. We go with a Spark, which is able to almost one-shot the Slowbro, while it goes for an Amnesia, raising its special defense. And with one more Spark, we're able to take out the Slowbro, leading into his next Pokemon, Jinx. Unfortunately for Will, his Jinx is going to meet the same end as its Executor, and it's going to go down to one Flamethrower from Tamale. Will's ace and final Pokemon is his second Xatu, which I'm not really sure what he thought he was going to do here, but P. Sherman's able to take it down with a single spark, and just like that, we defeat our first Elite Four member. I know I said Will wasn't easy, but I lied. Our team was just perfectly made to destroy this poor dude. Next up is Koga, the Poison type trainer, who is also the former gym leader from Fuchsia City in the Kanto region. Koga's first Pokemon is Ariados, which does trigger my arachnophobia a little bit, but I can't help but love this Pokemon. Unfortunately for Ariados, a single flamethrower is all it takes to stomp this bug. For some reason, Koga sends out his Forretress next, which is 4 times weak to fire, so it's no surprise that Tamale is able to one-shot the Forretress. 2 Pokemon in, it's time to switch out Tamale and give her a break, even though she doesn't need it. Koga sends out his Muck next, which means it's a perfect time for Mud Puppy to step up to the plate. And Mud Puppy is just too good. A single Earthquake is all that we need to take out this Muck. At this point, it's been quite a while since we used Tamale, so as usual, a single Flamethrower is enough to take out Koga's Venomoth. And just like that, we are on to his ace Pokemon, Crobat. And because of Bat Baby, we know that this Pokemon is no joke. And when I say that his Crobat is no joke, I mean that it's the only Pokemon in his team that doesn't die from a single shot. After our first Spark, Crobat is in the red, which forces Koga to use a full Restore. Then we just have the most exceptional luck in the world. Crobat goes for a Wing Attack, we miss a Spark. Crobat goes for a second Wing Attack, we also miss a Spark. Koga then uses Toxic, which is a waste because after a final Spark, we're able to take down the Crobat and defeat Koga. The third member of the Elite Four is Bruno, who is actually the one we're most afraid for. Bruno uses Fighting type Pokemon, and even though we have a counter with Bat Baby, his Pokemon have some Ice, Thunder, and Rock type moves, so we are a little bit worried. Bruno starts off with his Hitmontop, where we of course start with Bat Baby. We start off by going with a Wing Attack, and we're outsped by Hitmontop's Quick Attack, which does not matter because we're able to take it down quickly. Bruno's next Fighting type Pokemon is Onix? Yeah, for some reason he uses an Onix, which is a great time for Basil to make his Elite Four debut, and after using a single Razor Leaf, this Onix is toast. Next up is Bruno's Hitmonchan, which is the Pokemon we've been afraid of. This thing has Ice Punch and Thunder Punch, so there's no way we're using Bat Baby here. So we decide to use Mud Puppy because she's able to take a couple hits, and we don't even have to worry about that because after one Earthquake, we're able to take out his Hitmonchan. Next up is Hitmonlee, which means it's time to use Bat Baby again. We decided to go with a fly because Hitmonlee has high jump kick, and I love when they miss because it makes me laugh. Hitmonlee completely disregards my feelings and uses swagger, and we're able to take it down with a fly. Bruno's ace Pokemon is Machamp, so we start off with Myrtle because Ghost type is immune to fighting types, unless you use the move Foresight, which is exactly what he does. Before that, we're able to get off a Thunder Punch, which does about a third of Machamp's HP. Now that Machamp's able to hit Myrtle, we expected to go for a Cross Chop or a Vital Throw, so we switch into Bad Baby. But it goes for Rock Slide.
That was stressful. I thought I was going to have a grand mal seizure. What was that?
Somehow, Bat Baby survives the Rock Slide with half of its health remaining, and after using a Wing Attack, we defeat the Machamp, which means we have successfully beaten Bruno. Now I have to warn you, if you work in customer service or the retail industry, you may want to cover your eyes for the 4th Elite Four member.
We got a Karen. We got a wild Karen here.
This is not just a Karen, this is the Karen, the 4th member of the Elite Four and the Dark type trainer. But she only uses 3 dark types, and you might ask, how come she doesn't use a full team? Well, you're not allowed to ask her that. She would like to speak to the manager, and you better believe she'll be leaving with some type of compensation. So, Karen starts off with her Umbreon, which is an absolute tanky unit, and we start off with Basil. We get lucky with a critical Earthquake, and then after getting Sand attacked, we miss the next 2 and get confused. But on the 3rd attempt, we land an Earthquake and we're able to take out Karen's Umbreon. Next up, she sends out her Vileplume, which is not a dark type, and it's almost redundant to say at this point, but Tamale's able to one-shot it with a flamethrower. Karen's next Pokemon is Gengar, which coincidentally is exactly how 15-year-old girls see her. Lucky for us, Mud Puppy ain't afraid of no Karens, even if she does lick her. So after using an Earthquake, we take out this Gengar. This poor Murkrow is up next, who just does not stand a chance against P. Sherman. Karen's ace is Houndoom, which is incredibly badass, but just like Murkrow, it stands no chance against P. Sherman. And just like that, we have defeated the Karen of all Karens.
I'm a citizen. I have a right to speak. I have a right to speak.
With the Karen battle behind us, we have officially defeated the Elite Four, and the only thing standing between us and being champion is Lance. With Lance standing in front of us, it's time we put our big boy pants on and get down to business. This is the moment we've been waiting for our entire life, the one battle we've been preparing for this entire Nuzlocke, and the last thing we can do before battling Lance is just enjoy this incredible music. Lance, the Dragon-type champion, starts off with his infamously non-Dragon-type Gyarados. First up for our team is P. Sherman, who uses a 4-time super effective Spark, which is no match for the Gyarados. Lance then sends out the first of his 3 illegal Dragonites, and we send out Myrtle. Myrtle goes for an Ice Punch holding Never Melt Ice, so we're able to one-shot it. Lance's second illegal Dragonite meets the same fate as the first, and Myrtle is able to one-shot it with an Ice Punch. Lance then decides to switch things up and stop using illegal Dragonites and sends out his Aerodactyl. We send out Mud Puppy, who's able to withstand a Hyper Beam only taking a scratch before taking out his Aerodactyl with a Surf. Next up is Lance's ace, his level 50 Dragonite, which usually would be intimidating, however Myrtle was born and raised to eat these things for breakfast. Lance's third Dragonite goes down to a single Ice Punch. Last and certainly least is Lance's other notoriously non-Dragon-type Pokemon, Charizard, the new unofficial mascot of this game, and the Pokemon that's been jammed down our throats since the beginning of time, goes down to a single Surf from P. Sherman. Just like that, we've defeated Lance, we've become the Johto champion, and we have successfully completed our Pokemon Crystal Nuzlocke. Lance excuses us from Professor Oak and Mary, so we, along with our Pokemon, can officially be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Thank you to everyone who made it this far in the video. I had so much fun not only playing this game, but also editing. So if you'd like to see more Nuzlocke or Pokemon content in the future, please leave a like, a comment, or subscribe. And if you picked up on any of the nicknames I used in this Nuzlocke, leave a comment down below. If you thought they were stupid, if you thought they were funny, go ahead and tell me. And if you feel like seeing me Nuzlocke the Kanto region, we still have that to do, so let me know and we can give that a shot. This team was too iconic for them to be done, so I feel like we haven't seen the last of them yet. I have been King Squid Games, and thanks for watching.